bro. Oh, sorry, I thought my mic was.
Alrighty, hello everybody, and welcome back to the European Multikey Tournament round of 16. We are continuing right along this weekend with the last match of the Saturday block of matches. It is going to be Milla going up against Freek, looking to see if they can continue on their winning runs by either not playing or getting a win by default. These two have not played quote unquote just yet this tournament, so it'll be very exciting to see how these two perform going up against each other. As always, my name is Sparky, and I am joined in the commentary booth this time around by none other than Nightkore. How's it going?
Hello, Sparky, and good to be commentating with you for the last Saturday match. So yeah, as you said, both these players have avoided the round of 24. One player getting win by default. I do believe Freek getting that win by default. Milla Monkey seeding 8th, so they do get a free pass from the round of 24. But now tides must clash, and they now will have to be facing each other. So we'll have to see how this fares. And how do you think this match will go?
Oh man, this could be one of those where it's like it's either very long. I mean, actually, let me preface that. In traditional matchups, like if this were a 7-key or a 4-key matchup, I feel like this is already a very close matchup between these two. I feel like there are plenty of tournaments where these two have participated in, but have always managed to either dodge each other, or it's very infrequent when they do actually face up against each other. The fact that we are in a pool where there's literally 2 of everything, it's basically who can handle the shifts between like lower key counts to the higher ones, like who can handle like 8, 9, 10 key maps, because we know that these two can really hold their own on the 4 through 7 key maps in this pool.
You pretty much said it. And yeah, kind of just already looking off the stat sheet. They are very close when it does come to the lower key modes, but actually Freek have the advantage on the higher keys. Actually seating respectively 13th, 9th, and 7th on the 8, 9, and 10 key qualifiers, which is a pretty decent difference compared to Milla actually seeing 19th, 11th, and 13th. So I think for Freek, definitely going towards more of the higher key modes might suit them more advantageous. But now with the warm-ups out the way, we can jump into the roles.
Oh, that's a very powerful 7 to the 91 of Freek, so they'll get their chance to choose how they want to go about these proceedings here.
So yeah, now of course when we have the, I do believe, okay, there's going to be no protects, I do believe. I think
Yeah, no
if I do remember correctly, it's going to be 2 bans.
Yes.
So for Milla again, oh no, not Milla, Freek. For Freek going for the pick first, so that will give Milla the first opportunity to get the ban, and I will not be surprised if they would be going for the higher key modes. So actually, I was told that kind of looking at the seedings kind of looking at Milla's seeding from C19 on the A key mode. I do believe what Race did tell me was um Freek was using the wrong settings. I know it wasn't Freek. I know it wasn't Milla. It was Freek. Freek was using the wrong settings in the qualifiers, which might can explain more the lower seeding, but we will see how they do fare now.
And I mean, already just ripping the band-aid off here, the 8KLN map being removed from this pool. Not surprising in the grand scheme of things. I think we were kind of alluding to these higher key maps being targets. 6-key LN going to be removed in response by Freek as we wait for Milla to throw out their second ban. Is worth noting. Not allowed to ban 8-key rice, so they can't just remove an entire key mode. And we're just sticking with the LN. 10-key LN going to be removed as well here.
I was probably going to predict 10 key LN be going banned just based off the statistics. And for Freak, it's going to be going for the 5-key rice ban. So there's going to be 3 LN off the board and 1 rice off the board. Just looking off again. I'm not really too surprised that they went for the ban for that, especially that Milla definitely has the strong suit when it does come to the lower keys. But now we do get into Freak's first pick, and I would probably presume they would stay. I'd say they'd probably warm up with the higher key modes. So maybe I would say something like 8 key, 9 key, or 10 key respectively.
Yeah, it's definitely a good shout of a potential first pick here. I feel like that might just be the strategy for Freak overall. I mean, you have 4 really good maps you can go into if you don't want to dive into the common ground. And yeah, sure enough, 9 key LN, the surviving LN map of the higher key modes, going to be the first pick here for them.
Yeah, I'm not really too surprised here, but do not let the star rating and the OD fool you. This map is very heavy when it does come to coordination. Now, again, all the qualifier picks were hybrids, so if you think that LN could be a different factor, then no, I wouldn't say really, just because now this is going to be pure LN, like just going to be testing on the fingers. Like, of course, like we just have to see how these players do fare.
Yeah, it's always you hear low star rating LN, anything above 7 key, and it's just like, okay, this is coordination, and it's gonna be the frequent topic of discussion whenever it's low BPM coordination based LN is, can you avoid removing your finger before you have to? And Milla gonna be picking up the first slider break very early on. Freek follows soon thereafter, but the difference in starting comfort, the starting accuracies for both players couldn't be any further apart. Milla down in that low 90%, Freek up around that 99% mark, handling this just that ever so slight bit better. Actually, I say ever so slight bit, much better by comparison, with a third of the map already done.
See, I find it super awkward in this scenario, as you're moving your pinky or ring finger when it does come to the far left, far right notes. So it's definitely kind of hard to shift between 1 or 2 of those fingers, especially when you do get those releases where you have to lift up one. Can definitely be awkward on the fingers, and maybe that might be what Milla is kind of falling a bit under. So again, it's just kind of something you have to, I would say, just strain your hand to kind of control that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very hard. Like, if you have your hand flat, there's certain movements you really just cannot do when you're engaged in certain positions. So unsurprising that we're seeing the couple of pitfalls here and there. But overall, as we make it to this ending, Freek was able to keep it under control much better by comparison. Unsurprising, Milla banning out the 2 LNs that they did. Bro, I don't want to have to do that any more than they should throughout this match. So Freek with a very strong opening point to get this match started.
Yeah, very good performance. Again, not a very easy map to kind of keep your control on. That's why you kind of explain the higher miscounts and the higher other misjudgments compared to your 200s. But now Milla is jumping straight into their territory, jumping into the 7 key rice.
Yeah, this is very much more in the comfort zone of both the players. I think Milla maybe fancies themselves on this like 4 to 7 key rice range, so that might be their plan of attack to answer back to these higher key mode maps that they'll have to withstand from Freak. So it's setting up for a bit of an interesting dichotomy. I know in traditional map pools, we always like to say the rice versus the LN player, but this is very much like the low to mid key player versus the high key player beginning to develop here.
I was exactly gonna say that, as a matter of fact, earlier when I was getting into the bands. But I guess I didn't forget, but it is okay. You know, see, the thing that kind of worries me a small bit about Freak, although specializing in the higher key modes, 8, 9, and 10 key, 2 of those maps are banned, so they might have to jump into more of Milla's territory when it does come to some of the lower key picks. So maybe even jumping into 4 key as well could be a bit riskier, but as we do get into things, both players kind of still handling this jump stream, hand stream area fairly well. Actually, Freak having the advantage from the intro as well.
Yeah, just very much a straightforward chord stream introduction for the players before diving into this build-up. Another pretty short map in the grand scheme of things, just over 2 minutes as we get on into the drop here. Freek gonna find a break into the transition, but still holding on to the lead by virtue of the higher accuracy. But as I say, I find it a pretty nasty drop as we get into the drop proper. Moving our way into the back half of the map, Milla holding on to the tiniest of leads. Freek still holding on to the accuracy advantage, being able to keep it from getting any worse, but it's still 3,000 points for Milla right now.
I think if they can keep onto their combo once to get past the cap, I think it'll definitely give them an advantage. And as we are seeing, the score is going to be flickering back over, but we're getting back into that heavier chord stream areas where now actually Freek is going to be losing a few early 200s as well for that section, but as you do get into the ending where it does contain a bit more of those streams, you kind of do have to watch out in this section. And just looking at it, Milla is kind of slightly losing that accuracy a bit, where again it's just ever so slightly over towards Freek. Freek just has to stabilize themselves, and as I say that, they do find that drop is going to be nasty. Milla just has that consistency going.
It's just combo gaming at this point. They are foregoing the accuracy down below the 99% mark. Freek, if they can get back over that 400 combo cap, this could get really dicey here. It's about 0.4% to make up the advantage, but it's not going to be enough. Milla manages to hold on 3,400 points. The margin between the two of them, and Milla manages to equalize it 1-1.
That is gonna be pretty. That is a very impressive performance by both players, especially Milla. Especially Milla's consistency. It's just the combo is gonna be key for a lot of these, and it definitely tells. But that might be a small problem for Freek maybe when they are going to be challenging Milla in the lower key modes, just especially because Milla specializes more in the lower keys, and once you finish your 8, 9, and 10 key routes, what else do you have to pick at that point?
Yeah, this is potential questions needing to be answered. I mean, the good thing is that it's like it sounds like both these players have at least 4 maps to work with. If there's a break point at any point in this match, then we can throw all those things out the window. It really does become like, okay, where do you try and like poke and prod into your opponent's territory? I feel like Milla has a couple more fallbacks than Freek does, but that being said, I mean, Freek is still a really good like 4 to 6 key player. Like, not to discount them at all, but it's like when you're trying to really push an advantage, they don't really have that much ground to work with. Already going into the 9 key Rice here as their second pick in this match, I imagine gonna be pretty much what we saw, similar to the LN chart, the 9 key LN chart, where it's like being able to handle these trickier patterns across essentially 9 fingers is going to be a bit easier of a task for them.
Yeah, I would definitely say so too, especially after seeing that LN. They definitely have the finger control and the accuracy as well. So I'm unsure on how Milla does fare on some of the high key modes. 9Q was their best, but it was by 667k. But like, it is a 200k difference from what we have seen from qualifiers. So I would not be surprised if this is going to be more of a comfy pick for Freek in this scenario.
Yeah, it really just comes down to like, okay, isolate it to the 7 columns and then just hit the pinkies whenever they show up, and just try not to get jump scared by them. Milla already pick up the first break as the things begin to develop here. Freek able to hold on to a pretty high accuracy as we get on into it. The major chord stream double staircase pattern start to rain down. Freek picking up a drop before too long, but still able to keep themselves above that 99% mark. And the accuracy discrepancy already beginning to grow here between the two players. 2%, 30,000 points the difference in favor of Freek as they begin to grow on this advantage through the intro into the second quarter of the map.
Yeah, this map is definitely kind of keeping into that consistency, as we have seen from the first Ki, and actually getting into the break as well is still following format, but just some of those lighter chords. But now we are getting some jumps on the streams as well, which at this point we are definitely seeing some more intense actions. But I think both players did hold on to that pretty well. But we still have the back half of the map left, so anything can still happen at this point.
Yeah, for sure. But that being said, I mean, if you're Freak going into this back half, you feel a lot more comfortable with your performance overall. It's like, okay, you saw how the 9-key LN went. You've seen how the qualifiers went in terms of overall comfort. It's like, just keep playing the way you're playing. You've pretty much, I don't want to say assuredly have a advantage here. You never want to discount your opponent, but I would imagine they feel pretty happy with what they're doing so far as we continue on into the last quarter. Still about 3% gap between the two players, and Freak just riding off into the sunset, about to make it a 6-digit lead here on this 9-key rice map.
I think both players are especially holding this on very well. But again, when you're playing hierarchy modes, it's definitely a lot harder to keep that PA control intact. And actually, that was actually a trade for Mrs. on the same no, as a matter of fun fact. But even then, it's Freak with the better consistency and control at the end of the 9-key pick, and it definitely does show by the score difference and just the scores in general. Very good performance by both players.
That is an insane score from Freak. Only the 5 little hiccups throughout that map. Almost a V1SS outside of the 200 count. It's crazy how these odd numbered key modes can kind of translate if you have a pretty solid foundation on 7-key. But as things stand, Milla going to go for the next pick. It's going to be 5-key LN. So still opting to go for these lower key modes and still keeping it in the odd column as well. So something interesting to note there as we continue this match, seeing if that trend is going to continue. Actually, they only have 7-key LN, so they really only have one other option if they want to keep it there.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And I would even be honest, like if there was going to be protects were in this, if protects were here, I would say this probably be one of Milla's protects, just kind of looking off from it. Yeah. But 5-key LN, gonna kind of follow the same format as we have seen with, I wouldn't say 9-key with just with some of the walls, but when it does come to density as well, 180 definitely a pretty decent step up from what we have seen. But as we get into things now, we'll just have to see how both these players do manage. Again, you kind of have that emphasis on the middle key as well, which you do need to have the fundamentals for the release, which I do think both players have greatly. So control is going to be coming down to this, and here we are kicking into the map.
I can imagine it must feel like a godsend not having to worry about the ring fingers on a map like this, where you're a bit more density focused in terms of the LN structuring. And I've always said, when it comes to the 7-key in particular LNs, players seem to do a lot better, or at least feel a lot more comfortable with these higher BPM LN charts because of the fact they don't need to think as hard about their releases. And we can kind of see it here, the combo gaming versus the accuracy gaming beginning to develop, and right now Freak winning the battle overall on that front. 6,000 points in their favor, but as we saw with the 7-key rice map, Milla's able to combo game their way through this, so Freak not allowed to miss at any point during this chart as we cross the 1/3 threshold here. Oh, and there it is! There's a slider break!
Yikes, that's going to be pretty detrimental, but can they keep holding on? I think maybe even with that drop, I think it's not going to be bulging the score difference that much. It might go, yeah, and actually, now as Milla finding that drop and Freek getting back the lead, it's just going to be combo game, and it's still getting traded back as the section does get heavier in density and some of that coordination as well. Accuracy drops are to be more found here, but here we are going through 2/3 of the map and only one final area of the map. We'll have to see how both these players do manage. Back to the max combo count both players are, and I think definitely a few punches being traded here and there from both players when it does come to some of those coordination. So will these players jump back into the flow? We will have to see when we do jump in to the final key out.
Oh, this is still way too close to call. It is 1,100 points between the two players. It feels like for every 10th that Freak bleeds over, it just gives Milla more of an advantage. The fact that there's 1 miss to 2 in the score sheet at the moment going into this last sliver, Milla needs to hang on. They've built the advantage back for themselves, and the accuracies are virtually tied. It's going to come down to who can hold their nerve through this outro. 3,000 points in favor of Milla as things stand. The last couple of rolls coming through. No misses to be found. Milla manages to take it at the 11th hour. Freek held on to the advantage for as long as they humanly could, but Milla just able to keep it clean that ever so slight longer to make sure that things stay tied here 2-2.
This is actually an extremely close matchup, and I would say gives Freak kind of more the confidence boost to kind of go jump more into Milla's territory, especially in the lower key modes as well. Like even then, still having the better PA, but of course when you are playing tournaments, you have to watch out for those other misjudgments as well. So now Freak is jumping back into A key Rice, which I do believe that is going to be the second last of the higher key picks.
Yes.
So this is going to be amazing Metroplex by our host Racehouse.
It's funny. I have so much PTSD with this song. I can see the SVs from the 4-key chart of this from a tournament from years ago, and it's just like, okay, it's 8-key. There's no SVs. You don't have to worry.
Have we even ever seen a 8-key tournament with SVs? I don't think.
It's been a while. It's been a really long time, but I digress. Let's just say this song has been around for a while, so we have to see how the players do. I think one player feeling much more confident on this pick than the other, but I mean anything can still happen. You never know, but I feel like if you're willing to put a wager on this, you imagine Freak is going to do similar things to what they did to the 9-key Rice and just obliterate it.
Erase, don't take any ideas that you're gonna add SV in next iteration. Okay, but yeah, as you were saying, yeah, you are correct. I think Freak is definitely gonna be performing as similar as they were at the 9-key pick, but now as we do introduce the scratch note into things, we'll have to see how what these players do fare. I think Freak is actually resorting to using mirror, so the scratch will be on the right.
Yeah, it's always, I say 8-key so nonchalantly. I think the appropriate term is 7+1 because of that scratch lane. So to the folks that like those details.
Oh yeah, totally. Maybe it could just be for bait, but at that point, like
for simplicity's sake, it is 8-key.
Yeah, it's just 8-key.
And yeah, sure enough, that little bar line you see on the left and right hand sides of the players' playfields, little scratch lane.
Yeah, so we can get into things. And yeah, just kind of off the start, you can already kind of see the dexterity taking place. Both players finding a few drops at the start, but it does kind of get equalized out as we do jump back into the flow. And here we are, kind of having some of those chord streams with very minor emphasis on the scratch, which I think both players kind of finding some of those combo breaks when it does come to some of those scratches, and we can already see by that it's just going to be who holds on for longer and who kind of controls that scratch.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we've seen it on these hierarchy mode picks already where Freak just looks so much more comfortable by comparison. I was starting to notice through the intro of this map that Milla was kind of employing a technique where anytime that they have a key to hit on their left hand, they're just hitting the scratch lane as well. if they have a feeling, you can see it light up whenever they have a column 1. It's just going, but I think that's more just attributed to the fact that they don't do 7+1 key all that often, and it's reflecting in the scoreline already over 100,000 points going into the last third of the map. Freak very much running the gamut from all these higher key mode picks. The saving grace for Milla is the fact that there's only one more obvious pick for Freak in this match, and they won't have to deal with those high key mode picks for the rest of it. So they can kind of just take it on the chin and try kind of mentally prep for whatever they're going to pick next.
Oh yeah, for sure. in that scenario, you could just completely ignore the scratch and just play like 7 key. But I don't think it'd be that likely, especially now Freek's climbing back up to that 98 mark. But we're going to be seeing very similar patterns that we have seen from the intro, but just a bit denser chord stream. But I don't think it is going to be deciding anything, just despite score differences already at the 6-digit mark.
Yeah, overall, very, very nice performance. It's like Milla was saying that in their practice they had like a B rank on this, so getting the A on it, pretty good. I would hope from what they were maybe expecting to get into this. So yeah, very much better than they were expecting. So kind of a pat on the back. It's like, okay, just do better than your practice, and you'll be surprised. So Freek gonna make it 3-2. Milla on the bubble again to try and respond, maintain parity, and I mean they still have plenty of pretty good options. They have both 4-key maps. They have 6-key Rice and 7-key LN. I would say maybe stay away from the 7-key LN and maybe start going for those 4-key maps. See if they can pull one over, but it's a bit tricky from here on out.
I would probably at this point I would probably go for 6-key Rice. I would say it's probably one of the safer picks to do, and actually here, as I am saying this, in the Percy versus OU match, Percy just actually ignored the scratch note entirely. I actually did start to remember that now after it was mentioned in the Twitch chat.
Nice.
Okay, so how's it done?
Listen, it's like it can't hurt you if you just make sure it doesn't exist in your mind.
Yeah, exactly. And 6-key Rice is going to be the option for Milla, potentially hoping to equalize the scores yet again. Like, when you are looking at these two players, like, a breakpoint will probably mean pretty much everything for them, as they'll have less opportunities to kind of fall back on some of the picks.
Absolutely. We were kind of alluding to it as the match got started, where it's like, who has more avenues of attack in terms of if a breakpoint were to happen, and now I think the answer kind of is with Freek, where if they can get this breakpoint off of Milla, they just insta-lock 10-key Rice, then kind of just right off into the sunset. So the onus is on Milla to ensure that doesn't happen, and whichever of the 4-key maps they're going to go into after this, should they win this, is the most ironclad 4-key pick of all time. So all to play for on this pick, the most pivotal pick in this match, because a lot can be determined off of it. It looks like the players are ready. We're going to get into this 6th map, and let's see how they do.
Yeah, totally. As you were saying, like, you could, like, this would pretty much be this is definitely going to be one of the deciding factors, I think, for this match, for whoever does take it. Of course, if Freek does take it, that will be the first breakpoint, their potential match point as well, having the next pick in their hands. But Milla does take this. Freek definitely has a lot less to fall back on. And finding that early drop as well, not going to be doing Freek any favors. But again, it is only at the start of the map. But 2 minutes drain time, there is not a lot of room for error to kind of hold on to that. Double trade by both players, so the food's on the board. So pretty much anyone's game at this point. Freek finding that additional drop is going to be non-stop of those streams, flams, and some of those chord streams as well, which I do believe both players are holding on to very well. It's just sometimes you can find some of those combo breaks as well.
Milla does find a drop in return, and they were holding on to the accuracy advantage through the opening salvo there, but now starting to lag a little bit behind, and we've seen this on these lower key picks that Milla has gone into, where Freek can actually hang on relatively well. It's just the fact that they pick up these little drops here and there and not able to stay above that 400 combo cap for long stretches of time. It gives Milla a chance to kind of rebuild the advantage and make up for any lost ground in terms of the accuracy. But now we're seeing it happen again. Freek building up this advantage, 6,000 points. That's usually around the margin that they've had on these picks from Milla. But the major turning point now is the fact that Freek has the combo advantage going into this last third. If they can hang on, then first breakpoint could be on the cards. Milla needs to lock in, see if they can build some more accuracy to try and claw back some of this lead, because it could really spiral out of control. A miss would be a disaster from this point out with a quarter of the map left to go.
It's just all going to come down to the outro, following the same format, but a couple of those denser emphasis on some of those chords, even seeing some of the 5 notes as well. The UR from both players is going to get a bit dicey, could potentially might see a combo break sometime later, but with just the map closing out, I don't even think I don't even think a combo break could do anymore.
Ooh,
even then,
there it is.
finding that break, that is unfortunately going to do it. Freek getting that point is going to be a very significant point for Freek. Now, the next pick is going to be in their hands, and whatever they do pick is going to.
If they don't just shotgun 10 key rice, I don't know. I don't know what world we are living in. They've looked so comfortable on these high key mode maps, and the fact that they haven't even thrown out a pick yet is kind of insane. The first breakpoint goes over. It's like, with the way things have been going, there's no chance you go like 7 key LN here, right?
Watch him pick 4 key. Oh, okay.
10 key rice. No. Okay. No.
Okay.
Path of least resistance. Do not chance it. Do not give an opening. It is there for the taking. They have taken it. So
Sneaky 4 key rice in the pocket. Okay, here we are. The potential last pick. Not playing around, as was said. So, Freek definitely going into what is also their strong suit. Again, Milla still has the opportunity to take it over, but knowing that Freek has the upper hand when it does come to the higher key modes, Milla does kind of have to focus in a small bit more if they do not want to be knocked down to losers.
yeah, it's always good to preface these as like potential last pick, because never want to count out anybody, but with the way things have been going, I imagine the ball is firmly in Freek's court as we get on into the 7th map of this best of 9. Milla is starting off with a early drop, getting on into it. Yeah, this has been Freek's wheelhouse, these higher key modes. Just, I don't want to call it a victory lap, but this is probably going to be over right from the start here. Already a 4% difference between the two players. Freek holding on to the FC. Milla trying to find some footing through this introduction. The lead already about 35,000 points going out of this intro. Not even crossing the 400 combo cap yet. And Freek already with a devastatingly high advantage.
Yeah, already on that 5% accuracy difference. Even with those drops, I think something more detrimental is going to have to occur to Freek if the point will be shifting over towards Milla's favor, as in like as I would probably say, disconnect or a hardware issue. But the odds of that are very slim. It's never none, but still, it would be very unlikely in a scenario like this.
Yeah, as like, I mean, the good thing is that it's like you do get the 2 bans, so it's like on the flip side, it's like you do have to go into some of these picks, and it's like if you just run into that one person that is just so dialed in on the higher key modes, it's like it gives you very little room for error if they can stand toe to toe with you on those lower key picks, and unfortunately just not able to see it through on that 6 key rice. It was a good pick, don't get me wrong. Like, I don't think either of these players wanted to go into those 4 key maps knowing one, how hard they are, and 2, how good both these two are at 4 key, because it feels like everybody has 4 key in the back pocket and it just becomes an accuracy battle. So I mean, it's the most optimal pick route that these two could have taken, and Freek just having that little bit more in the tank to ensure that their picks were more ironclad at the end of the day, as the last couple of notes begin to rain down, last couple of structures begin to make their appearance. The outro well and truly here, 191,000 points to the good, a breakpoint in the back pocket, and the victory at the end of the day. Freek takes the match over Milla 5-2 to continue on in the winner's bracket here.
Very impressive performance from both players. Have seen very diverse skill sets in what they do thrive and what they do not. So again, it's going to be more balanced on see who's more well-rounded for these key modes, as it definitely will be more the deciding factor, and it will be decided as Freak will be taking their way into the winners bracket quarterfinals. I do believe facing Seed One next week, if I do remember correctly.
Oh, what a reward! Just going straight into number one seed. But hey, if you want to beat the best, you want to be the best, you gotta beat the best. And there is no player better than, I believe that's Baguetka, if I do recall those seedings correctly. So I mean, that'll be an interesting matchup once we get into next weekend. And Milla going to be facing off against Baguette Pain next weekend in the quarterfinals in the losers bracket. So definitely a lot to look forward to for these two. I'm excited to see how they do next weekend. But that will do it for the Saturday block of matches. We'll be taking quite a lengthy break here, about 12 hours. We'll be returning at 11 UTC Sunday for our next match. Is going to be Summit versus Paul is Gaming. So with that being said, do you have anything else left to add here before we close things out?
Not really. You pretty much hit the words out. So definitely going to be three interesting matches to see on the Sunday roster. So definitely stay tuned for those.
Absolutely. So with that being said, hopefully you guys have a wonderful evening, and we'll catch you guys later.
Okay, good night, all my European